Residents, go in and stay in your houses. Drive the rats in the tank area.
Oh yeah! Welcome to Sinful Sunday.
Uh-oh.
It would not be this show without a little bit of technical difficulties. As much as the band that we're going to talk about tonight, nothing but technical difficulties. But God damn it, one of the most, and I have to agree with my brother Hoofed Beast, one of the most important bands to metal at a very integral part in metal history. And that band is Fear Factory. We are going to give you, and this was so fucking hard, our top 5 rankings of this 31-year history of this band. A lot of people don't realize that, but yes, it's true. And we're going to give you some back history. We're not going to touch the controversy too much just because there's no place for that. We want to talk about the musicians, the level of musicianship, their style, and everything else. So before we get into that, let's check out our brother overseas at the wonderful Poison Valley Clothing right now. Never get tired of that song. Ever. Never do. And I also know what I can do to it to only uplift it. Anyways, if you're looking for some awesome designs, go over to Poison Valley Clothing on Facebook. I almost fucked up and said .com earlier, which is why I had a stupid pause and I had to pull my fucking head on my ass.
Well, that's better than me, Reaper. That's not. I almost called them their old business name.
Oh shit! Wow, would that have been very uncomfortable? But nonetheless, we're talking about hand-drawn designs. They are custom, and they even take suggestions. So if you're looking for some awesome shirts, I'm sorry, my cat just purred like a beast for a second. Still doing it because she's pissed off and it stopped me. I'm so sorry. This is a very fucked up evening so far. Check them out. All right, let's just get down to it. We're talking about Fear Factory, a band ahead of its time that came at such an interesting time. I can remember seeing them when they weren't anything special yet. On Ozfest, of all places, I said, who the fuck is this? It was one of those bands that if you were a hit parader reader like myself, you saw the advertisement full page, and it was almost like Geiger-esque artwork. That just kind of made you go, wow, this is really kind of interesting. Never saw anything like it. Very alien style, kind of like futuristic stuff, like sci-fi.
Mhm.
And hey, what's up, Kyler? What's
Hey,
happening?
Tyler.
Oh, good. You're
Oh,
done
good.
being sick? Fantastic to hear, brother. I didn't even know. What the fuck?
Reaper, you don't pay attention. I knew he was sick.
And he said, let's have some fun. So guess what, Gangis?
Oh, yes,
Let's
it
have
is
some
that
fun.
time.
When you're not feeling so good, there's the lazy nipple. It's the lazy nipple song.
That's right. We're all about the fun here. I'm so sorry. I'm sure that was the last thing you wanted to see. Anywho's.
I want that thing to get back to Dan.
Same.
Yes.
I would
Absolutely.
hear from him about that, as long as it's not a lawsuit.
But then we'd have to appear in court, which would mean we get to meet him, so that'd be kind of cool.
Oh, he probably would.
Yeah, probably.
No, let's put it this way. Seriously. He only goes after people with money. I don't have money.
Me neither.
I think most of us don't have money, so I think we're safe. Oh, shit. But yeah, that is what intrigued me about this band. And I actually heard them on a compilation. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a whole bunch of like new metal bands that were coming out. And this was in the 90s.
Mhm.
Who ruled the 90s at that point? Grunge.
And,
So,
and Pantera.
oh yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
Pantera. But it was like, who were the other standout bands? And this was, how do I want to put it? Way better than Ministry ever was.
Hell yes.
Love me some Ministry, but I have to agree.
Hell
This they took.
Oh no, we're in trouble.
Oh no. For sure. Totally. Man, they took the idea of the blending of industrial and metal and made it better. They put it to a level that I never thought it could go. So much, in fact, that people didn't even believe the drummer was really playing it.
Exactly.
Oh, we're going to get to that.
For
So, anywho, so let's go ahead and just jump right into it. What is the number 5 for us all?
My number 5, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Gangis.
That is kind of how I thought it was pronounced.
Yeah. The other ones I know it's pronounced. That one I'm kind of like, is that right?
Oh man, that art
That art is fucking killer.
Every album they've really, for the most part, have done their album art is just fucking sick.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. This stupid cheap ass thing. I need to get a new one.
All right, so I put that as my number
That's the
5.
duct tape.
I put that as my number 5 because I thought it was probably in some ways more accessible than some of the other albums. It was very nice though. I didn't really skip any of the tracks, or it was nice. I didn't enjoy really, but it definitely wasn't as heavy as some of their other albums. Although I actually like them better when they're not being super heavy, but that's beside the point. Anyway, I don't know. I just thought it's a good album, but not not my favorite by any means. So I put it at 5.
Oh, I can tell you this week I've been wondering what Gangis's number 1 album was going to be, and I don't know which one. I knew right when we discussed it last week. I was like, I have a feeling when you hear this album, you're going to choose this one.
Oh, it's not the one you originally told me to listen to.
I'm very curious to see what your number 1 is. No, I don't think it's the first one I told you to listen to. I thought that would be too heavy for you.
I mean, it was good. I like some really heavy shit, but I just don't like his voice when he's growling. It sounds stupid.
So Burton C. Bell sounds stupid, but the dipshit from what's the hell's the name of that band?
Which one?
That German band.
I fucking
Oh,
love
no.
Rammstein. You don't even. Yes. He has a very appealing voice,
Oh
in
my
my opinion. I love it.
That is fucking birth control.
You just got the fist.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's that German dance band. Yeah.
Well, and to a point, I do have to agree. Some of those earlier records, it was all almost like monotone with not much inflection coming off of that until some of the later records.
Right, but once he actually starts singing, his voice is fucking gorgeous.
Fuck no.
I can't say gorgeous. There's gorgeous
can.
moments.
I'll say fucking awful.
And when he tries to scream, it goes wrong. But you can still feel the emotion. So I'll give it that. But he just wasn't meant to be a screamer, and that's okay.
We were talking about Rammstein. If you hadn't figured that out, people.
If you couldn't tell by Gangis over here looking very upset.
He is hurt. He is hurt.
Yeah.
I'm hurt. I'm shook.
Metal
I
cards.
think. Oh, go ahead.
Metal cards are often revoked from big Rammstein followers. But they'll
I'm not giving my card up. God damn it! You'll have to
But-
fight me for it.
like German industrial dance music, no problem.
Except they're not industrial dance music.
That's what it is to me.
Oh my goodness.
And that actually brings up a question I have for you, Hoof Beast. Have you ever heard Blut Engel?
Yes.
No.
Check them out.
Mm.
Let me see if
Agree.
you actually prefer that over Rammstein,
That is a good question.
I like
because they are industrial pop almost.
Yeah.
But they kind of teeter most, closely with metal at the same point. It's not like a super heavy thing.
Yeah.
So they're almost just as popular, if not more popular than Rammstein.
Tyler,
right
I
now.
fucking love Icebreaker. They're a good band.
Oh, no, I have no problem with them. I have no problem with them at all. And there's another band, too, that my son has always been almost a bigger fan of.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it. I can't think of their name. I can see their logo, though. It's like almost like a tribal eagle kind of thing. Their colors are always black and orange. I just can't think of the name right now. But they were a band that started out as a Rammstein cover band, but broke away from that and got better. I just can't think of the name. But there are some other bands that are very heavy and very good that come out of Germany. I honestly think this is the first time in Tracks of the Damned history that me and Gangis have the same number 5. So you might want to pin that on your calendar because it doesn't happen very often. I also chose Genius.
Yep.
However we say that. And it's not because it's an album I don't like. There was such a member change, especially with drummers. You guys know I'm a drummer.
Hold a minute. Kyler, when the fuck is Lord of the Lost coming to the States? I didn't hear about that. Sorry. Anyway.
This was a much better version later on in Fear Factory history. It's still not as dynamic as some of the drummers that they had in the past. Even with the riffing, because obviously, Dino has been with them for a very long time and has been with them, since they really truly broke. But even his guitar playing changed, but this was a little better. in their later history. So I didn't want to make it an honorable mention. So I put it at number 5 because obviously there are records and member changes that I like so much more. But this was a good record. I could actually get with it. It didn't sound awful because there was a couple of albums that were not very well produced. And even their sound, like their signature sound that got them so big in the first place, kind of fell to the wayside a little bit. But there's some great songs on here. I love Autonomous Combat System. I don't know if you call it dielectric or dielectric, but I love that tune as well. And Soul Hacker is ferocious.
Soul Hackers,
it's so tasty on that record.
It's a really good album. No, it's an honorable mention for me. It's a really good album.
And absolutely.
I also really like the Battle for Utopia. That one's cool.
Yeah,
that's a good one too. And you know, they've always kind of had this like sci-fi end of times kind of vibe that, you know, pretty much, you know, Burton C. Bell just kind of, I don't know how he does it. It's like he started with one movie and then had a million fucking, second, third, fourth film, you know, all the way through the career. But he always is upping the game. It's always, you know, the same ideas there, but he changes it, he expands on it, and it's something that everybody can relate to. That's why he's so fucking good as a singer. But yep, that's my number 5.
What do you guys think of Burton C. Bell's band that he's working with now? They were already going on for a few years.
What band? They're
called Ascension something, and here's what I think of it. It is industrial pop, like Rammstein's heavier than it is.
Sounds good to me.
And Rammstein will at least like have really catchy riffs. This doesn't even have that. The vocals are just kind of bizarre and in the background. Oh my God! If you go on YouTube and look at the comments, people are just going nuts over it, and I'm just like,
yes, sequel. Like, thank you, Kyler.
It's not metal for sure.
I'm gonna have to check it out, but sounds intriguing. I like that sort of shit.
It's called Ascension to
of the Watchers.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm not surprised because it's always been something he's gravitated towards. And ultimately, I'm just going to say it, made some of those albums suck ass.
It's so this other band that he's with, and he was flirting with this back around 2006 and 7 when he tried to leave Fear Factory. And he said that he didn't want to yell anymore. He wanted to sing. And I've seen him live. The dude cannot sing at all. I don't know if it's just transitioning from growls to clean singing. When I saw him, it was on Thanksgiving in 2005. Fucking horrible. It was really
no.
His singing was awful. He was like totally tone deaf.
Jeez.
A few years before that, when I saw them on Ozfest, he still had trouble transitioning back and forth, but his voice was better. So I think over time, and actually pretty quick, because, you know, everybody's makeup is different as far as their you know, vocal cords and stuff. I think he burned himself out real fast because let's face it, they started in 1989. So by the time...
Brutal.
Yeah.
Soul of a New Machine. Holy shit.
There was 11 years that from 1989 to, you know, when we saw them live. He's already been doing it that much. So he probably burned himself out.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
All right. Well, my number 5, and Gangis, you're going to have to hold back. This is the album that I am predicting is going to be your number 1.
Okay.
It is an extremely catchy album. influenced by nu metal, is their lightest album out of all of them. Like it's
I
not
can't
really,
believe you chose that.
but it's really fucking good. It's really catchy. And what I did before we started this week is I thought back, how do I feel about each album in their catalog? Which one do I stand back and I have really good memories? You know, I listen to it over and over and over and over again. And so I was able to come up with like 8 albums that were like that I loved to listen to over and over and over again. And this was one of them. This is my number 5. Digimortal. The one that I'm going to predict that Gangis would like a lot. So hold your cards, Gangis. But I thought you would like this one because to me, this is their kinder, gentler, but really catchy and much more kind of nu metal influenced out of all their albums. I think it came out in 2001.
Did not make my list.
No, me neither.
Oh,
I gave it 1 out of 5 stars.
But this one, I thought the songs were super catchy. What Will Become? Like, that's very anthemic. Linchpin is a super popular song. I think that might be one of their top ones. Like
that was the only one I stomached from that record.
Yeah, I still liked this, but I remember back, and when I first heard it, I thought it was really catchy and I liked it. Now, when I did get this album, I was coming out of my religious phase in my life where I shunned extreme.
Damn you, Christianity!
Yes. I had turned in all of my cassettes and CDs that were metal and all my LPs that were metal or hardcore punk and all of that. And but I mean, Acres of Skin, Back the Fuck Up. I mean, those are pretty tough songs. And I would dare say, I'd say this is their most catchy album.
There's so much like rap type shit on there though, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, I fucking hate that shit.
It.
You know, it reminds me of one of the lighter albums by Slipknot, to be perfectly honest. And that's why I don't like it. And, you know, I mean, obviously I'll talk about this throughout the broadcast, but there's a reason that this band hit hard and very close to my heart. It just wasn't them. If it was another band with another name, because like I said, in a couple of shows, you know, back in time, is that, you know, hearing Burton C. Bell with Geezer, different band, different sound, different everything. Loved it. It was great. I mean, still heavier than that record. But there were some anthems on that record too that, you know, Fear Factory probably would have never have done at that point. So I was with it. But that album just, it's tough. Just tough. But I can't say that I hate it. I would wish it went in the toilet because there is 2 other records they did that I wish never happened. But that's okay.
All right.
Kyler.
Oh, Kyler.
You are a true fan. Yes, sir.
That's what Kyler just said. All right.
I feel it.
Number 4.
I feel it.
Speaking of this album, as Kyler just brought it up, my number 4 is Obsolete.
Ooh. So low on the totem pole. I am surprised.
I liked it, but I just
very
liked the other ones better.
Very similar to Digimortal to me.
There are more.
There was a lot more industrial sounds, and it was very bassy. I love the cover of Cars. There's a lot of songs that I really like.
No one ever talks about that.
Resurrection, Timelessness.
See, how use Digimortal? I knew you were gonna love Cars too.
Well, yeah, I love the original song. But what?
Oh, I fucking hated that. I pressed forward through that.
I'm not gonna lie. People back then kind of fast forwarded through that. It was the rest of the record that made it for them.
Mhm.
But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with liking it.
No.
Just not for me.
Yeah.
Then again, I didn't always like certain bands that like really resonated with me.
Mhm.
Didn't always like their covers.
Yeah. I don't like any of Fear Factory's covers. They've done a of them.
Covers are like a 50-50. They either rock the fuck out or they suck balls.
Yeah,
I've always said that.
that's true.
It just depends.
Gangis, what songs really stood out to you? Which songs?
Shock, Descent, Resurrection, and Timelessness.
So Gangis, for you, this overall is a band that you don't really like because of Burton's clean vocals or his growls?
I like his clean. I don't like his growls very much.
Yeah, he switched after the first album to where it's more like a yell.
Yeah, which is a little bit better, but it's still not great to my ears.
I don't know. I'm on the fence. Early Fear Factory, his growls were fantastic. I don't know if that was production value, but when I heard them live in the early 2000s, I believe it was 2002, the guy's scream was great, but live his clean was just not as crispy as it was on the record. So listening to the record, it's like both are great. Well, I bet one day he laid the fucking growls, and then the next day he laid the cleans because his voice had a chance to rest. You know what I mean? Which is why, like I said, a mark of a great band is, can they reproduce everything live? So, but then again, you know, different shows have different sound guys.
For sure.
They don't always have the same sound guy that can mix the voice to help it sound as close to the real thing as possible. That's very true.
I think he's tone deaf. He just can't sing.
Yeah, I can feel that because he's trying to match the keyboards. He's not trying to match the guitar.
I agree, Kyler.
Sorry, Kyler.
What?
Niet spasiba. I don't like Sweet Dreams either. Although I like.
Is it because it got jammed down your throat too much?
I like it a lot better than Cars, though.
I knew that was coming. So my number 4 is different.
Okay.
There was a 2-year period of time that had one of my all-time favorite drummers. When it comes to extreme metal, this guy fucking does it all. He's like the chameleon drummer that fits in every goddamn situation you put him in. We talk about the great Raymond Herrera, and he is definitely one of my favorites. But this guy, I mean, I'm talking about when I was in short pants, his work with Dark Angel is what got me on the train with him. And that is Gene Hoglan. That guy's name is synonymous with so many great metal acts that are still going to this day. And when he's left his mark and moves on, it ain't the same band because of the way this guy plays, his precision, his attention to detail, the way he plays with the guitarist. He's one of those pioneer guys that wasn't just trying to groove with the bass. He could groove with the bass, but he played to the guitar. You know, we always talk about Vinny and Dime, the greatest like writing duo. He was definitely on par long before they even came around. So this one is The Industrialist for me, number 4. And it's because of the musicianship.
Mm-hmm.
The vocals still at this point were not as good, but the guitar sound and the way that Dino wrote and the way Gene played, much like Herrera, but just on a different level. His double kicks are just always tasty as fuck. And it's kind of like when he joined the band for that period of time, he reminded Dino of how to fucking play his guitar. Let's be real about that. Because Raymond's last couple records with them, I think he was just like, all right, I don't want to leave the band right now, so I'm just going to play what you want me to.
Yeah.
Technically, it was a much better technical record, which is what they're built on. Yes, I will say the industrial noises were kind of unnecessary on this record, but when you break it down to meat and potatoes, the guitar and the drums drove the record. So that's why it's my number 4.
All right.
Yeah, that didn't even make honorable mention for me.
Really? All right.
Industrial sounds I didn't care for. I just didn't find the songs as memorable as
you didn't like Recharger?
No, of course they always have 2 or 3 that are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
The whole album from top to bottom. Like there's going to be a big surprise that I didn't put one album in my top 5.
All right.
Because of inconsistency. I felt like they had 3 or 4 really good songs, and then they just kind of rushed, and like they kind of seemed like they were almost like demos, like not really thought out real well for a few.
No, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So my number 4, I'm sticking with Gangis.
All right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, every song on there until you get to Cars is just Edge Crusher in particular. Edge Crusher, so fucking heavy. And I liked
it's amazing.
I thought that they still kept their heaviness from the previous 2 albums, but every song until you get to like the couple that are on the special edition, that I felt like they really knocked them out of the park. Really catchy, yet heavy, with better clean vocals in there. And this is where Burton, at least on the studio recording, was able to sing more. I thought that his singing leaped up a level from Demanufacture. So yeah, Obsolete's my number 4.
All right.
And to me, those are their 2 softest albums. Digimortal and Obsolete to me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. My
That
number.
is fair.
That is fair. My number 3 is Archetype. I really like this one. It was kind of less experimental, more kind of like straightforward industrial, which I definitely liked. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Nirvana cover, but it was okay, I suppose.
They should have never have done that. That's why I won't talk about that.
To me, that's a terrible cover. That's a really poorly done cover.
Definitely not great.
It's
But
like
I
you
really
can
like some of
have
the songs.
you can have almost a near perfect album, and then you have that one track that just spoils it for you.
That's fair. But that aside, I really liked Bite the Hand That Bleeds, Act of God, and Human Shields, and Ascension. I thought it was a good album.
Definitely didn't make my list.
Parts of it almost sound kind of like Ministry-esque.
Blasphemy. It's like he swallowed the Kool-Aid, you know? But I can understand. And I can appreciate that too, because I think people that are fans of that era, because Ministry was the first to kind of take it there, would definitely kind of like be more prone to that, listening wise. because there are ministry purists out there, and that's fine. That's just not me. I like things that evolve. So, my number 3, I don't know if I'm going to mirror anybody here, but again, as I kind of preempted previously, the Gene Hoglan era of this band was great. Not in my top 2, of course, but again, I loved this record as a whole. Mechanize. Okay. I had to go with it. It is a fan favorite of a lot of people. I understand that. For me, musically, it was really good. The production value was really good. You know, Burton was a bit better on this record, which is why it's higher up for me. But songs for me on this one are definitely the title track, Power Shifter, Oxidizer, Controlled Demolition.
I also really like Christploitation. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was good too. Definitely not going to say it wasn't. Designing the Enemy was also a good one to me as well.
I really like the ending of the album too. I thought it was neat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Matt, this is what it looks like. Mechanized would have been my number 8. I just felt I felt like the songwriting had once again fallen off. As much as I love Gene Hoglan, they just seemed flat and a little uninspired to me. Not Gene, but and maybe a little bit too repetitive with constant theme of robots taking over and destroying humans and robots. Which
I will definitely make this a disclaimer. The vocal lyrical content didn't matter a hill of fuck to me.
No,
I have always rated Fear Factory on its musicianship.
Yeah, still a good album. I just felt like it was a little bit more.
That's right, Babylon Sun. As of last week, I'd never listened to him either, so it's fun.
It was it's one of those things where I like to say you had to be there from its inception, because you had Pantera, you had Metallica going on, Megadeth was still kicking ass, but then there was this, which was so different from everything else going on. I mean, Power Man 5000 was really popular at that time too. Fuck them. But anyhow, they just combined two things that were very popular during that time, because who else was at the top of their game at that time? 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah.
Which is fine for the industrial category, but for the industrial metal category, you had Fear Factory, and Rammstein was just starting to come into their popularity around this time. So these guys were obviously much heavier.
Fear Factory heavily borrowed from two other bands, though, to get their sound on Soul of a New Machine. And that was Godflesh and Pitch Shifter.
Agreed.
Absolutely borrowed heavily, but were way fucking heavier and faster and pretty dynamic to me. All right. Well, my biggest surprises, Gangis has given me one big surprise, but Reaper, you've given me some huge surprises. Like, those are the two albums that you've chosen so far, or those two, like, they didn't even make close to my top 5, really.
I understand.
But I also will say, outside of their industrial albums, they didn't make a bad album. I've always liked every album that came out. There one that I just said, oh god, that's shit. It's the ones that I didn't like was this. I didn't turn
that was awful.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Wait a minute, which one did you just hold up?
It's a Remanufacture.
If you say so.
It's the industrial version that was not like this is like a real niche, like Revoke Metal Card.
Well, that's
I'm
my
just gonna-
number 2, so shut up.
I'm just going to haul off and say the two that I hate the most, and that's Concrete and Hate Flies.
Yeah,
I didn't like either one of them.
me too.
I was like, what the fuck were you thinking, smoking, shoving up your ass at that time? Suddenly, you lost your fucking balls because you let Burton ride the train.
Yes, exactly. I totally.
There, I just had to get that out. I didn't know whose feelings I was going to hurt, but I'm like, those two records for me were like, why did you do it?
And I never.
And Raymond just said, okay, I'll do it.
I never. I don't know why I bought Regenerate. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. I probably was trusting because it was back before the internet was huge, and so I didn't get to like listen to it before Spotify. And I thought, oh, it's Fear Factor. It's got to be good.
We thought.
Mert. All right. So my number 3 is what came out in 2021. Aggression.
Right.
And
I thought that one was pretty good.
I thought that Burton did a great job. The songs are catchy, and his delivery, I thought, was much different than the previous like 5 albums. I thought when he did the clean parts.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I got this album, I was surprised. This is where I felt like, oh, I'm really going to get into these guys again, because even though I did like Genexus, I did like that album. I did feel like there were a few songs that were meh, and that kind of blended together with the way that I felt Mechanized and the Industrialists were. But this one, I just felt like there's no weak song on the album. The clean parts are different than they usually are.
No bad cover.
I would say Fuel Injected Suicide Machine. That song's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Recode, Disruptor, Aggression Continuum. Like, to me, every song on this is a banger. I even considered it for my number 1. I thought this album was excellent. That's my number 3.
But the drumming is so different, though.
That is a weak point, and I could see why that might not be for you. Like, to me,
I think that's why it didn't really appeal to me as much.
Yeah, it was like toast with margarine.
I mean, when you're given, it's like when you're given just an exceptional talent, like Raymond Herrera, which I'm about to get to. Man, it's hard to not look at them the same way when the style and the precision is so different. I don't know. It was hard. Like I said this at the beginning. I said this is one of the hardest ones to ever rank for me.
Yeah, I would say that this guy doesn't stand out at all like Herrera.
He just doesn't.
Do.
He's not a bad drummer. I bet you if you put him in a different band, he would probably thrive.
Well, to me, he's good, but he's like, he doesn't stand out. He doesn't have the character that Herrera and Hoagland do with his playing. He doesn't have that lasting memory that both of them do. But I liked Dino's guitar work better, and I thought Burton stepped up and did a much better job. Like when I heard this album before I found out that he'd left the band, I was shocked that he had left after producing this album, because I was like, this sounds pretty inspired.
All right. Should we run another
Such
commercial?
a weird
Or should we
period
just
in
keep
their
going?
history.
What do you think, Reaper? Should we run the commercial or just keep going?
I think we can keep going, actually.
All right. Well, sorry, not sorry. My number 2 was The Manufacturer. I almost put it at 1, but I didn't. It's 2. I really like this album. It's much more like melodic. There's more keys and even some like organ type sounds. It was very almost gothy metally in some ways. Yeah. And huh?
Demanufacture, right?
Yep.
I couldn't tell if you said
The songs I liked the most were Zero Signal, Dog Day Sunshine, and I thought Therapy for Pain was absolutely freaking gorgeous. I like Hunter Killer.
Not a bad record. The musicianship, the tightness, the almost genteeliciousness of it is what is really appealing about that record. Especially, for me, I thought Herrera, his creativity drum-wise between cymbals and actual drums, he's kind of always had that flair that he can go off time but still be on at the same time. And I think that's what really kind of created everything for this band. The fact that, Dino was not their first guitar player. It was the second. And the way the two of them worked together, especially at the fact that, Herrera could mimic on the double kick what gentiness that, Dino was putting out there. He was able to do it, which is why everyone thought he was faking it. There's never been a drummer that could do that in this time, this period time of metal. Definitely. And he did it, so much that they thought he was triggering. They didn't even think he was playing fast. They literally thought he was just hitting the pedals, and suddenly the electronic device took over until they put a fucking video camera behind it and watched his feet. And I will never forget that. It was kind of like that. I got you. Oh man. Because nobody thought it was humanly possible, but the guy could do it. The man's a rhythm genius. Just is. Hey. All right. So we're at number 2. And this was very difficult. But again, Gangis and I are at the same. Never thought this was possible.
Well, I know we definitely aren't the same for number 1.
Probably not. Demanufacture is my number 2. There's just, for all the reasons I just said, the guitar and drum work is just incredible. And the industrial sounds, it didn't strike me as a goth thing. It really didn't. It seemed appropriate.
That's true.
Both for what, the whole theme of the record is. It just seemed right. It didn't kind of, there's a couple of records where I actually felt the keys were overpowering the band. This is not a band you do that with. It just isn't. So for this one, it seemed good and it was sparse, but when it came to the forefront, it was okay. Because it always kind of shined with his clean vocals on the record. Obviously, live, that was a different story, but
yeah, I'm sure.
Because, the keys don't lie, the voice can.
Yeah.
So that's my number 2. As far as songs on there for me, this was like the very first record that really kind of broke them. So it does have a special place, but it's not my number 1. Demanufacture the song, Zero Signal, Replica. I don't know. That'll always be a staple in my Fear Factory catalog. It's just all kinds of nasty. I love it. Because of the percussiveness. Everybody, except for Burton, because obviously, vocals are a bit different. Yeah. But the band as a whole was like one big percussive unit. And I love that. There was not really a lot of bands doing that kind of thing at that time.
I agree.
And I know that people might shoot me for this, but I loved his growls on it. The clean singing was just kind of like, God damn it, what are you doing?
I thought
But
it was
still,
really monotone.
it was.
It is.
It's like, why did you feel the need to do that?
Yeah.
Maybe it was just his way of putting like that little bit of light, that there's so much darkness going on. He was trying to put the light there. He fucked up when he did it, but when he came back, he punched you in the balls again.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's why that's my number 2.
This album did not make my top 5. Because now the first 5 songs,
Well, that's okay.
The first 5 songs, absolutely. Like, I was thinking this could be the number 1 because of those first 5 songs: Self-Biased Resistor, Replica, fucking Amazeballs songs, really good.
So good.
Said about it being a very percussive album, I totally agree. Very tight, very groundbreaking as well as a band. But then once we hit, what's the song? Flashpoint and HK Hunter Killer. Those are forgettable to me. And that's unacceptable. And then once I listened to it and I compared his dynamic range with his singing and how monotone his clean vocals were, I was a little disappointed, and it fell a little bit for me. But the first 5 songs coming out, unholy shite, so damn good. And the artwork on the album is so cool. Like, nobody was doing stuff. They said, I like the logo. Like, what a really very, very good album. But after this week and really delving into it and listening to it critically, I was surprisingly disappointed because of about 5 songs toward the end. I think Piss Christ is on this one. Yeah, Piss Christ, like, for various reasons. But I think that one is strong. But AK Before It and Therapy for Pain, I just felt like they weren't as strong as previous songs.
I've always kind of said this from the first time I ever listened to them when I was much younger. If they had shorter records, I always felt like they told too much or gave too much, that they didn't have to, because live, they're not playing it all.
Right.
They're just not. So it could have been a B-sides thing that they could have put together instead of these horrible fucking remix albums. It's like nobody ever wanted that shit. They just didn't.
Yeah.
It was almost like a fucking trend, because there were a couple of other bands at the same time doing the same thing. Yeah. It's like, no, we don't want to hear that different. The fucking Rob's. I know this is probably, blasphemy, but even Rob Zombie had some remixes that were no good. It was a trend. I really think so. And we've discussed this before. I think Burton just had a different idea, that he thought, oh, well, I think they'll like this better. And then they put it out, and it's just like, why? I think that was a poor attempt at crossover.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just like, what the hell is this? To me, it's the drumming in the remix, the industrial, so fake and plastic, and it's so monotonous. And that's really why I don't like industrial, because the drum beats are just so kind of pounding, but so repetitive and just boring to me.
Especially when you got a metal band of this magnitude. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, good album. Like, I thought this was for sure going to be in my top 5, but I
feel it.
Just thought there were some weak songs in there. Amazing songs. And I think, like, when I see a band come out with 13 songs, like Megadeth on their last album had 13 songs, 13 or 14 songs. It's too many. Because, like you said,
it's a
they're
lot.
not going to play all these songs again. Most of these songs, like, you're never going to hear again. They might maybe play the whole album, or maybe play like 6 songs off of an album when they're touring that album, and usually it's only 3 or 4, and the other songs are just forgotten. Why not really focus on 6 or 8, 9 songs and make them all excellent?
And that's exactly why I think we're in the era of the EP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, a lot of experts are saying you should just be releasing singles now.
No, right, exactly.
I'm an album person. I go out, I buy the album, and I sit and listen to the whole thing.
I am too.
That so many people aren't like that anymore.
So am I, Gangis. I'm with you. That's how I am too.
I feel that, but at the same token, though, some staple artists aren't putting out 10 great fucking songs, though.
True.
Ola Englund was talking about how he's really happy that vinyl is coming back out again, because when you do vinyl, you put the needle on. You usually don't try to hop because you don't want to scratch your vinyl.
Hell no, you don't.
And you listen from beginning to end, and then you flip it over beginning to end, so you hear how the bands want you to hear it in the order that they agreed upon.
Absolutely.
It's a whole new world.
And that's how I
need some vinyl.
And it's like when you flip that record, it's like mysterious because you just don't know what's coming.
Well, for my number 2, my brother sent me a mixtape, and he had Bjork on the mixtape, and he had Stone Temple Pilots on the mixtape.
Holy crap!
And the gem that stood out, because we both liked Godflesh, was Martyr from Soul of a New Machine. This is a song that I remember when this shit dropped and when my brother shared it with me, and I went out and got it, and just the relationship to the bands Pitch Shifter and Godflesh, who I loved both of them. Pitch Shifter to me was much more derived of Godflesh. Like, those two sounded almost the same. This was different though. This was death metal with clean vocals. The first album, unless you would want to include Godflesh, but to me this was more really aggressive blast beat death metal with clean singing, although extremely monotone and sometimes 3 to 5 words the whole time that he's just dragging out in a very different way than he did on Demanufacture. Demanufacture is more progressive as far as the vocals, the clean vocals, but still very monotone. These monotone, but it's so fucking aggressive and it's so fast. This is the song that really, this is what Roadrunner heard and said, we're signing those fucks. And Soul of a New Machine, there's so many.
You're absolutely right.
There's so many good songs on this album as well. This one I wasn't sure was even going to make my top 5 until I went back to it, because I haven't listened to it in quite a while. But once I got back into Martyr, and oh my gosh, Crash Test, Scapegoat, Leech Master, like those first 4 songs right out the gates were fucking amazing. And then the other songs, they did have a couple that were a little flat, but then when you get back to the back, Self-Immolation, I thought was really good. Degenerate, I thought was really, really good. And those were songs like numbers, I think 11 and 12 on the album. But to me, this was a groundbreaker. Really the first time an extreme metal band, unless you want to consider the way Godflesh did kind of clean, kind of monotone, droning vocals, and then introducing a little bit of the industrial element. Like, I thought it was quite original. And this is like a special edition that I got because, of course, I had this album and I went through my religious phase in life and I turned everything in. It was very costly. It cost me thousands of dollars in rebuying CDs that I thought were bangers that I just had to have again.
Exactly. It is definitely a expensive hobby. You know, not like it was back in the 70s into the 80s, things were still vinyl wise much more inexpensive, but now it's like this holy grail thing that we all must search after. You know, it's $20 a pop, and in some cases $30 a pop.
Some of them are $38. Most cases I'm finding
What
like
that?
$24 to $28, and then if like I just got Lateralis by Tool, that fucker was $38.
Holy shit.
Ooh.
But it's beautiful, and what they did to the vinyl, I'll bring it out one day. It is beautiful. I don't know how they did it.
Oh, the wax colors.
They have the actual skulls with the skin peeled off in the fucking vinyl.
How?
Yeah, I know. That's it. It's beautiful. It's really.
It's like they're using a CNC machine. You know, what
I
the
don't-
fuck technology can produce that?
I don't know. Maybe it's something that's on top, like they did kind of the shapes,
Could be.
and they put something, and then they were able to kind of press it in, or it's at a certain layer on it. I don't know, but it turned out really well,
That is so cool.
and I think that's $8. And I got Bolt Thrower, and that was like $38 as well. That's an old earache album.
See, $28, I can stomach that. Anything beyond that's just kind of like, oof.
But on vinyl, I'm only buying my top 25 albums of all time.
Right.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to hang those fuckers up on the wall here. I just have to find a rack system so they're not going to fall and be damaged.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
All right.
Number one.
Well, you're gonna give me a lot of shit for it. You want to take a guess which one I picked?
Boo.
No.
No.
Nope.
That's my guess.
No, that was my number 2. Remember?
Oh, Regenerate. No, I thought you said I thought you said demanufacture, not remanufacture.
Oh, no, I did say demanufacture. But anyway, no.
No, demanufacture. No problem. Like I could see how somebody vote that their number one. It was a groundbreaking album. Demanufacture.
Well, my number 1 is The Industrialist. After you spent 5 minutes ripping it apart, and I'm like, oh.
Well, I still think it's a good album. I just don't think it's as memorable as their others.
See, I liked it. It had a lot of synth, which I really liked. I thought every song was like a good balance between like heavy shit and softer shit. And it was just every single song on it I genuinely enjoyed from start to finish. All the other albums, there's like a track here that I'm like, or a couple entire albums that I'm like, But no, I enjoyed this one all the way through.
Nothing wrong with it. It couldn't be in my top 3. And that's because it just didn't have all the elements together. And it's so tough with this band because there are albums that are musically great, but lacking in the vocals, or the vocals are on and the music is just not as good in the backing it up. And it's different for different people. You know, we all kind of like look for different things that really stand out. You know, obviously the synth thing is your thing, Gangis, and that's okay. You go. That's fine. For me, though, it's kind of like they were, there's the donut and then there's the sprinkles. So the industrial portion of things, and some of the records kind of got redundant with like the 5 to 25 second opener that just didn't need to be there. Why consider that a fucking track? It's not a track. It's called filler. It's like you go to McDonald's, you get a burger, but you get more filler than you do burger. You know what I mean? And, you know, we've talked about the little interludes that happen in between tracks. It's just, they don't need to be there. Give me the ass stomping all the way through.
Like, I don't like bands outside of like Black Sabbath, with the rain and
Oh yeah, that's a little different.
That one does because of the mood it creates, but usually I do not like to wait even 10 seconds for them to get through some synth thing or something like that. Just get to the fucking song.
I love that shit.
But for me, it's because I want to relate to it and what the guitarist is doing, what this is doing, what the drums are like. I want to hear the instruments. I don't really want to hear that other type of stuff. Like Cattle Decapitation, whom I love, they did that shit a lot, and I don't like that.
Well, there's only been a couple of artists for me where that formula actually kind of works, and that's called King Diamond. Because he's telling you a fucking story.
Yes.
It's not really an interlude or filler in that case. It's part of the story. It's setting you up. And he always kind of did it in the beginning, once in the middle, and not at the end. It's like the last song would be the finale, you know, of an orchestra. So, you know, this was just so fucking tough for me, man. Number one, I was torn between Soul of a New Machine and Obsolete. And I don't know, just musically and Burton's growls, it was so fucking hard hitting all the way up to the song we hate, Cars. So when I think of the album Obsolete, I think of it minus that track because everything else as a whole, some of its parts was great. They were evolving. Things were getting a little bit more complex, a little bit more off time-ish against on time. I love that shit when it's done right. Fuck you, Dream Theater. I don't like you. This band did it for me. I think if Dream Theater was like Fear Factory, I would have loved it so much better. You know what I mean? Because even though they had that mix back and forth, and this album absolutely highlights that. Like I said, all those little tasty things that between hi-hat and bass drum, and the kicks are just going, but there's nothing else. And it's like, oh, it's standing out. And then fucking Dino comes in. It was so good. And that is why that album stands out as my number one.
Which one did you say, Reaper?
Obsolete.
Gotcha.
So where in the hell is Soul of a New Machine? If you were debating on those two as number one, where the hell's Soul of a New Machine?
I know. And it was going to be one of my honorable mentions because of that fact, because it was kind of like, I didn't want to put it at 2. I didn't want to put it at 3. I didn't want to put it at 4 or 5. It's like, I wish number one could have been a 2-parter because I just didn't feel I was doing it justice.
I didn't like that album.
I didn't think you would. That was the last one I thought you would like.
I gave it a 2.5 stars out of
Gangis
5.
just doesn't like a lot of the aggressiveness.
My least favorite album was Transgression. That one was terrible.
That was that they rushed, I felt.
For sure.
I don't know. I didn't like that one at all.
No.
Yeah, I didn't like it very well either. That and
everything.
My two that were like at the bottom.
Yeah. It's like the only reason I didn't rank it, seriously.
Well,
I couldn't. Because I think both of them are equally good.
This one is a hard damn album to find right now because Dino will not let it see the light of day.
Well, that's because he got his wish.
All right, Hoofed Beast, what you got?
Well, my number one, at least it kind of starts out like when I opened up the CD and I took the CD off, I saw this. Really cool. It's even upside down.
Something I never expected from them.
No, me either. Like I was like a little bit, is this a bit poserish?
At first, yeah.
Yeah. But this is the album when I got away from religion. This is the album that brought me back. And I listened to this album for a year. This is the album that's in my top 25.
Nice.
What I initially thought was going to be my number one. But this is the album that I'm trying to find the vinyl. I can't find the vinyl. And I may never, ever see the vinyl because Dino probably won't ever let them print vinyl for this. So if that is the case, I'll get Soul of a New Machine on vinyl. Either that or the one that came out in 2021. They did put out for Aggression Continuum in 2021. They put out and it's on Spotify, the instrumental version.
Yes.
I love metal does instrumentals. I fucking love it. Like Lamb of God did one year, and it was all instrumental. I loved listening to that.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's just basically a heavy metal orchestra.
Yeah, so much in it. But to me, until you get to School, which is a fucking cover, to me, this album was amazing. And I'll tell you why. There was no Dino on this album, but Oldenburg, I think is the guy, was the guitarist. I thought he did a good job. He kept with their style. And what was different, though, is they went back a little bit to Soul of a New Machine to where they would have more rhythmic parts where Herrera could do double bass and it would extend out like a more traditional extreme metal band. And I liked that. I thought that Burton C. Bell had a chip on his shoulder for whatever reason. Maybe because Digimortal did get criticized quite a bit for being too soft and being their most kind of easily accessible and kind of new metal album with the rap shit on.
I believe it.
And I think Burton C. Bell, for that reason, and for Dino leaving and being pissed about that, I think he had something to prove, and it came out in this album. And I really felt like Herrera and I forgot his Olfen Loop or whatever his name is. he was their bassist through the previous albums, and then he decided to take on.
He switched. Yeah.
For that album, for Archetype, and for Transgression. But Transgression was rushed through. The production wasn't near as good. The version I have has a DVD of the making of the album, and that didn't help it either. I did not buy a T-shirt because I didn't like the album. I didn't like the album cover with that monster.
At least there was no Bob Rock.
I just didn't like that. But every fucking song on this album to me, Slave Labor, it starts off right away, is powerful. The double kicks in there with the chugging, I thought they were together really well. I thought the bass, they had, I think it was the bassist from Strapping Young Lad, I think hopped on with them. He was playing Strapping Young Lad and Fear Factory when I saw them. And Herrera also was the drummer for Devin Townsend and Strapping Young Lad. And I don't think I've said this before, but Devin Townsend was absolutely gross. Not only was he almost all the way bald, he only had hair here and in the back, and he had dreadlocks with that, but he kept hawking huge loogies up into the air and onto the audience many times during the show.
Oh, heavy Debbie, what you doing?
It was disgusting. Travis Ryan from Cattle Decapitation does that, but he does them straight up, and he tries to catch it sometimes. He'll just do it straight up. He'll walk forward before it gets time to land on his head. It's that shit is disgusting. When I saw Pennywise years ago, they opened up for the Descendants in in the 90s. And Pennywise was doing that shit. He was spitting out on the crowd. It was so gross.
You see, that just goes to show you that my theory of most people like to be humiliated. They love that sense of you know,
Oh,
not defecation necessarily, but most people just don't mind a little bit of disgustingness falling on them. It gives them a rush.
Mm.
oh.
They're all fetishists, I tell you. I'm telling you. It goes all the way back to people liking sweat pouring off of certain musicians, and it
Yeah.
gets on them, and suddenly they feel just so. Oh, I've been christened.
Not me. I'm too much of a germaphobe.
Hell no, I'd be pissed off at some shit like that.
Fuck no, like that's gross to me. Like fuck no. But to me,
No, thank you.
every song on this album, Human Shields is a beautiful song.
Mm.
Hand That Bleeds was really out of character, and it was almost like a ballad, but I fucking love that song.
Same, that's a great song.
And I think that song was dedicated to Dino.
Probably.
But Cyber Waste, Act of God, Archetype is a beautiful song. The chorus on that song is very anthemic as well. Look Into My Eyes, and such a good song. And then like Bone Scraper, Default Jet, like every fucking, when I heard this, and I don't know if it's just that I was so happy to be back in listening to metal, and that I like had woken up and I was pushing religion away again, that this was like my savior. I had a 2-person show up in Atlanta. I was working as an artist at that time, and these guys were what I listened to over and over while I was getting ready for that show. And the previous show before that, it was Tool's Last Palace. But I listened to this album like fucking crazy. I love this album, even without Dino. What say you?
I liked it. It's not. It's another honorable mention for me because it's like they were trying to recapture the beginning, and I always have a problem with that. I don't know if it's just the way my brain works, but it's like when Metallica went to shit and then tried to recapture, say, oh, we can still play this way. I like bands that progress steadily. It's like they were getting up to a point, fucked up, came back a little, changed things, and then the next one sounds more like where they were around the obsolete to manufacture era. It's not that I didn't like it. And, if they were that way all the time, I don't know. It's like, where's your integrity? Did you just do this record just to piss off Dino? And that might be actually kind of true for them. And that's fine. But you gave us something so fucking different and heavy and then changed the formula. It was just hard for me to switch gears. It's like, okay, well, where are you going next?
But I found it refreshing because the singing was way different than Soul of a New Machine. If that's
I can get with that.
And it wasn't near as brutal as Soul of a New Machine.
Very true.
So the singing had improved, but I think they wanted to go back to have maybe a connection, more of a connection to the extreme metal kind of
like
rhythm.
the Roots.
Yeah, like the chorus sections where they could do the same thing instead of the like the genty kind of stuff, kind of stuff that I fucking love. But
they spoiled me. But that's what happened. I think they absolutely spoiled me.
But I felt like this album, though, that's what I really liked. Like, I thought it was different because they did have that. And because I thought Burton's singing was quite good. And there was no rap or nu metal reference to it.
Did you know that if you Google them, nu metal is under their genre? Sucks.
I could see for Digimortal. I would against obsolete and demanufacture, but I could see for Digimortal.
Yeah, it says heavy metal, metal, death metal, nu metal, thrash metal.
And It's like,
It's kind of scary.
no.
It's kind of scary for Digimortal, and mostly because of the rap song. But then a lot of the rhythms were kind of that catchy, a little bit poppy, dare I say, not brutal.
I just didn't want that from them.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I remember the first time I heard Digimortal, I was just like, wow, this is really different. Like it's really kind of toned down, like they've filed their eye teeth quite a bit. But I still thought the songs were pretty damn brilliant, and it still was Fear Factory. It's chug it a chug 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 it a chug chug, like that. I love that, those double kicks.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, let's face it, there were moments in Sabbath's first 10 years. It was like, what the hell happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, you gave us like 4 or 5 albums that were just fucking gold, and then it's sometimes when bands evolve and try to take chances, it fails. So with a band that has changed so many different times, like member changes, somebody new brings something new to the table. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So I think all of our choices as a collective were good. I really do. Because we didn't choose the records that suck. Especially that. But, you know, it also kind of makes me want to go back again and give a couple of those other records a try.
Yeah, I'm gonna give the
just to see if I can, you know, get some clarity on some things. So I can admit that.
I'm
not a stingy devil.
Do and the Industrialist again, because I just kind of skimmed through them this week. Oh yeah, I remember that song, and because I just had a feeling that from what I remembered from these 2 albums that I just didn't like them as much as Archetype and Soul of a New Machine and Obsolete.
I think if you can maybe focus just a little bit more on the musicianship of it, you might find a new appreciation for it.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Because, you know, it's been so many records that Burton, it's constantly back and forth. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
Yeah, I think that's what I really felt, is that Burton C. Bell seemed uninspired.
Yeah.
For those 2.
And for a lot of people, that can ruin a record for somebody.
And it's not like a glaring uninspired. It's
right.
And like it's still good. It's just subtly and not as good as some of the others.
I feel that. This has been one of like best bands we could have ever chose. Because there's so much there, and there's so many different elements that, you know, it inspires us to look a little deeper.
For sure.
Because I'm gonna, you know, I'm guilty of it this time. I was kind of a purist with them. This is what I started with. This is what I wanted all the way throughout. But you know, it just didn't go that way. So if I can go back and look at a couple of these other records, and I challenge everybody out in Three Witches Land to do the same fucking thing. If we've taught you anything from this, go back, check out their catalog. You just might find that, man, you haven't listened to it for a long time. Give it a try.
I don't get how they're only pulling like 400 to 500 people at a show now. Even like even 4 years ago when they had Burton C. Bell, they weren't having big shows. And to me, with how popular they were in the middle 90s, early 90s, they were huge. They really took a real nosedive as far as people not following them anymore.
You know, I think it was those creative sparks, like these little spikes that would happen with a couple of records that went so horribly wrong. People were like, fuck this. I can't stay with it.
maybe.
Mhm.
But to me, like Fear Factory, a lot like Overkill. I don't think Overkill's ever put out a bad album. They've done. I mean, now I don't include the industrial stuff. Like to me, that, and it's probably Burton C. Bell wanting to fuck with digital drums and stuff like that and do an industrial album. Okay,
Shame on him.
I don't have to listen to it, and I've chosen not. I listened to. I've probably listened to this album 2 times. That's it.
I can honestly say I never met a single person that said, "Oh yeah, those remix albums were the shit."
Yeah.
Never did.
Like the new one, I'm not gonna buy. Fuck no.
Oh, the one that came out in 2022?
Yeah, Recoded. Yeah.
They had an album come out in 2022.
Yeah, Recoded. It's Aggression Continuum.
I didn't catch that one, and that's probably okay.
It has
Please
a lot
don't.
of keyboards.
Don't hurt your ears.
I want to catch they did the Aggression Continuum on instrumental. They have it on Spotify, but I haven't found it as a CD or a LP.
I mean, that's not so horrible, but damn it, no, none of those remix albums.
No.
Please don't.
But
there's so much extra added into it that just makes it that much more horrible.
Yeah, every album is quite good, and just like Overkill, every album's quite good. I would say the last 10, they're good, but to me they don't get beyond 3.5 out of 5 stars. But like Years of Decay, that's in my top 25 of all time. That is a fucking heavy doomy album.
Absolutely. You know, even Maiden had some fucking farts.
Oh, hell yeah. We've already discussed that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of farts.
Too much onions, god damn it.
Onions and chili.
You're right. Well, that's it, folks. You know, our jury is out. We challenge you to go back.
Guys,
check out the catalog.
If you've watched it this far, please comment in, give us your top albums, comment on something. It's going to help us build this so we can get more followers, especially on YouTube. Because I enjoy doing this. I think we do a pretty damn good job.
For sure.
3 different perspectives. And a lot of times our perspectives are so different on them. Doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. They're just different perspectives. Like I really like Gangis a lot of times is doing reaction videos basically.
Pretty much.
Because he has, listened to these or grown up with them like Reaper and I have. But please share this. Let people know about this if you've enjoyed it. Thanks, buddy. Love that.
And thank you to Austin Smith, who also joined us. I don't. It might have been a while. I don't know. The name is familiar, but thank you for joining tonight. As a matter of fact, he said something really, really cool that kind of resonates with us, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's good to see that some people,
I didn't used to be the, I'm gonna just go find it on Spotify or Amazon Music kind of person. I used to always go out and get the physical copy, but
old school. Your parents taught you well.
They did. But
exactly.
lately it's been harder to do that. So
you were lucky to have to grow up listening to your parents' music because they had pretty good in music. My mom was listening to Crystal Gale, Barbara Mandel, Crystal
fucking Gale,
Conway Titty.
Oh
shit!
He was.
They got down with the titty.
Oh yes, and Dad just listened to whatever was on the radio, like classic rock stuff.
I grew up listening to Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, Wednesday 13, good shit.
Oh, that's good to grow up on. Hell yeah.
Well, you see how Slinger turned out.
Yeah.
Certainly wasn't his mama.
All right.
It's all rap. Awesome. Thank you, Austin. That's awesome. And we really do appreciate that. And
Thanks.
share that shit out, man. You know, I think there are a lot of folks out there that can benefit from this show. And that's why we've been doing this as long as we have, because obviously y'all keep tuning in. And it's cool to us to see, you know, your feedback. The more feedback we get, I mean, it's an interactive show. It's not just three assholes talking our fucking points of view. We want yours as well. So thank you. Absolutely.
One thing I love is I can always, Gangis is kind of our nicer guy out of the three of us. Reaper is always going to tell exactly what he thinks. And if he really fucking hates something, he's going to bring it. He's going to bring the hellfire down on what he doesn't like. And I would admit I probably the asshole.
But nonetheless,
and
you're getting it from every angle.
I think
we dissect this shit.
Yeah, it's a good, like, I'm pretty fucking sincere. I don't get to, like, the new Ahab album, I've listened to it like 2 times because every week I'm listening and preparing for our show. I have the new Sanguisuabog, and thanks, buddy. And I have the new Sanguisuabog. I've only listened to it like 2 times because I'm always listening to our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, or I'm making my own music.
That, you know, I feel that because I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And let's just say April's going to be a busy month for this devil.
Ooh.
I got 2 tracks to finish this EP that has been like a year in the making for Iron Serpent. And then I get to step back in time, which is awesome. Because it's been a long time since I've been able to sink my teeth in to a more extreme record, and I'm having some fucking fun. Just because I'm older doesn't mean I can't bring the hammer. Actually, I just put up a video today that kind of showcases that just a little bit, just a taste.
I've been working the whole day, so I haven't caught that, but I will go look for it as soon as we're done here. But what I'm really curious to see is what you bring when the groove slows down to Funeral Doom.
Yeah.
And then because some of it's kind of hard. I've done some fucking some weird shit with the guitar in the like it was hard for me to keep fucking time when I was recording it because it's odd. It seems very simple and straightforward, but it's kind of odd. And then it gets into the fast shit, and I can't wait to see you rip that up.
Well, you know, and it's one of those challenges, like I had told you once before. I love shit like that because when it's very airy and spacious, there are things that I can do that sometimes feel like they're on time, off time, but still bring it back to the one.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Absolutely. And most importantly, I can't wait to see who we choose next.
Yes.
For next Sunday.
I can't do next Sunday. I'll be too busy at, I think it's the VIP meet and greet with Combi Christ when this is going to be live. So I sure as I won't be on.
Oh, gotcha. Well, that's okay. Whatever Hoofed Beast and I come up with, it's guaranteed going to be something y'all out there will love.
I vote something
or
I
can
would
relate
hate.
to.
What's something that you think you would hate that you would want us to do?
Oh, jeez.
In your head.
Oh, jeez. I already did Maiden and Slayer.
Anything that's like thrash from the 80s or...
Yeah, anything super thrashy, take it. I don't want it.
Or like brutal death metal you wouldn't like?
I like some, but not a lot.
What about Bolt Thrower, Death?
I've never listened to Bolt Thrower.
Because we could talk Gene Hoglan if we did Death. So
True.
Shit. Not even just him, but their other drummer also.
Oh, Sean Reiner.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was fucking awesome. I was pen pals with Andrew's first drummer, and I even saw him when he played for Massacre, and I helped him load the van up.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, guaranteed, folks, we will have something juicy for you. All right. Thank you all so much out there in Three Witches Land for tuning in. We love you all. To quote the great Ozman Cometh. Definitely tune in. Let's see, Thursday for an awesome edition of The Underground with the great, and I know you know them, Grave Huffer.
Yes.
They will be with me making their debut on Thursday. And then, of course, we have yet the second edition of a shit-tastic fucking shred list that will make you puke.
Oh, no, we don't.
Make sure, some devil's lettuce is available.
Not next week. Not this week.
Oh, no, not next week?
Not this week.
Shit, man. You're leaving me on the fucking lamb. Well, you know what? Sorry. I just might come on by myself.
Oh, that'd be entertaining. Who knows what the fuck
I could do that. I have the power.
That is true.
I don't know what I'll come up with, but it might be good.
When you just man.
What's that?
I have the power.
Oh yeah.
You have
Where's my action figure? Anyway.
All right.
Nonetheless, this coming week we got some great shit for you. So, as you're getting ready for the woes of Monday morning, don't ever forget to stay heavy.
Riding in this wasteland.